All right, welcome to Elk Shape YouTube channel. We are going to do another question and answer. This is the second segment, and I'm just going to keep these things rolling. Had a tremendous response from a lot of you subscribers and viewers out there. I want to thank you guys for taking the time to send me an email and fire out your questions. It provides great content. I'm not an expert. I don't know the answers to all these things. I'm just going to give you my take, and I've been elk hunting for 15 years, so hopefully some of these things can maybe help tighten up those odds a little bit for you. The odds are nasty on public land, over the counter, like general season tags, and a lot of them are single digit or 10%. So you've heard it before that maybe 10% of the guys kill 90% of the elk, and I want you to be one of those 10%, and hopefully I can help you kind of cinch the noose, so to speak, on the quarry that you're after. In this case, elk hunting and fitness, which is two of my favorite passions, things that I wake up every day excited about. So this segment today, I gotta bring in my sponsors. I call them partners. I've been with them for years. I believe in their products. I would buy them if I didn't even know the people behind it, but fortunately I do. So Vortex Optics. Vortex Optics has been very good to me since 2011. You know what? It's not the most expensive glass out there, so that's the first thing. Is it's very affordable glass. The warranty is, I know you've heard about it because you break it, they'll fix it, no questions asked. Another sponsor that I wanted to highlight is Sika Gear. I've been with Sika Gear since 2008, 2009. They came out in 2007, I believe. I met and filmed one of the original guys, Jonathan Hart, on his first whitetail kill. I filmed him. I was his cameraman in Kansas back when I was doing some videography work for Sportsman's Warehouse, Sportsman's News. So shout out to Jonathan for staying with Sika Gear through all these years and being cutting edge and turning clothing into gear, and their layering systems. They're innovative. Now they're based out of Montana, which I love even more. Several of my partners are from Montana. So Sika Gear, thank you. And let's just dive into some questions. I'll see how far I can get. By the way, if you have a question that you want answered, feel free to email me, elkshape@gmail.com. That's elkshape@gmail.com. And some of you are going to get some swag. I can't send everybody swag, but I'm going to try to send everyone that submits a question and that I answer on one of these segments. I'm going to try to send you something, whether it be a hat or a sticker or a decal or a t-shirt for your troubles. All right, Brian asked me, question number one, what workout to start in order to hunt the way he wants to hunt? So what he's saying here is I want to hunt a specific way. What can I do in the off season to get myself as close to that shape as possible, necessary? And so my first question to him was, well, what type of hunts are you going to do? And he told me he is a beginner, so he's brand new to elk hunting. That's going to tell me a lot right there. And he didn't specify where he's going hunting, so we're going to assume out west, but every state's a little bit different, and I haven't personally hunted in every state for elk. I've been in almost every state and seen elk, so I'll try to kind of break down what workouts to do. His second question was, what calls do I recommend, and what is the correct way to bugle at bulls? So, oh my gosh. Well, let's start with the first one. I'm more of an expert in fitness than I am calling elk. I don't compete in elk calling competitions. I'm not Corey Jacobson. I'm not Jason Phelps. But I hold my own, and I call in a lot of elk, and I can tell you what I do. What I do for working out, I don't think it's a secret, is I own a CrossFit gym and I do CrossFit. Why do I do CrossFit? I used to tell people to just do what works best for them, and that's generally true. So you have to enjoy the process. You have to enjoy the process of getting in shape. You have to enjoy getting up early and working out, or making time for working out. And I know you'll enjoy it when you're done. You'll feel better. You'll be a better version of yourself when you train. Those endorphins will just make you better at life. Working out provides a platform for more discipline. I tell my athletes to be a slave to discipline, and what I mean by that is making the decisions, the small decisions every day that lead up to the big decision. In order to do that, you have to have a why. So why do you want to get in shape? Is it that you want to kill your first elk with a bow? Okay, if that is your why, you have a lot of things to train for. Not only shooting your bow, scouting, learning about your species, becoming a wildlife biologist, but as far as the workouts go, if you have to lose weight, which I'm generally assuming most people probably need to lose a few pounds, you're going to have to start in the kitchen first and then go into your workout. So I'd love to tell you about all these sexy workouts to go do, but first is look at your nutrition. Write down what you eat on average for the next 3 days. Do a 3-day food journal. And don't try to impress yourself. Just literally be honest. Write down everything you eat and be specific. Don't tell yourself you had a sandwich. I want to know what kind of bread, how many slices, how much mayo, mustard did you put, how many slices of turkey did you put on there, what kind of cheese, what other, everything weighed and measured out what you do. And then go find some sort of online like MyFitnessPal and put it in there. And it's gonna, compute your calories that you took in. It's gonna compute your macros, which is protein, carb, fat. And then you'll probably put into ratios and you'll see, wow, 60% of my calories come from carbohydrates and 20% comes from protein and 20% comes from fat. Figure out what your ratios are. If you want to manage it, you have to measure it. If you want to manage your weight, you better figure out how much you weigh. If you want to manage your fat, figure out what your body fat percent is. Find a personal trainer and pay them $20 to take your body fat test. Go to a nearby university and have them do a dunk test and do like a hydrostatic and figure out what your body fat is. Or if there's a bod pod nearby. Or if you got to go to a supplement store and do one of those cheesy bioelectrical impedance and hold on to it and it'll stand on a scale and at least get a number and then use the same way to measure your success. Find out how much fat you need to lose, how much muscle you need to gain, how many calories you're taking in currently, what's your macronutrient, and then start making adjustments and go from there. So you can't manage it unless you measure it. Workouts wise, I do CrossFit. I can sit here and talk about CrossFit for days and days. So what is CrossFit? Constantly varied, meaning you shuffle the deck as far as workouts go all the time. Routine is the enemy. Functional movements, you're not doing an isolation movement. You're not doing a bicep curl. You're not working on chest one day, shoulders one day, back one day, because you never use just one muscle in the mountains. You do total body workouts every day, things that require you to exert a lot of force and cover a lot of distance really fast. These are movements that are organic, found in nature, that your ancestors were doing, picking things up, pushing things, pulling things, pressing things, running, jumping, lifting. That should be a pretty clear idea of what functional means. And then execute it at high intensity. There's a caveat there. You don't just jump into high intense workouts right out the gate. First, you are consistent in your technique with the movement. So if you're just learning how to deadlift, if you're just learning how to push a sled, if you're just learning how to do a clean or a squat or a front squat, first you master the technique, and then you also produce continuity over several weeks in that technique, meaning you don't have a crappy squat over the course of 3 weeks, but that you actually start to master the movements and the techniques and the skills. Once you are consistent in the technique, then you can ratchet up the intensity, whether execute the lifts faster under the stopwatch, under the gun of a timer, or execute the movements with more load and do them faster. That is what CrossFit is, constantly varied functional movements executed at high intensity with that caveat that I just spoke about. There is no substitute for hiking with a backpack on your back weekly. I like to do it for my active rest days, which is Thursdays and Sundays. I try to carve out 20 minutes to an hour and a half to put on 20 to 40 pounds on my back and cover ground. It could be hiking on flat ground in your neighborhood, but get that weight strapped onto your shoulders and hips so you're always week in, week out, regardless of the weather, you're always having weight on your back, always having load on your spine, and getting used to having weight, because that is you always have a backpack on when you're elk hunting. Rarely do you take a backpack off. And so I hope that answers your question as what workout should you start. You should look into functional movements. It doesn't have to be CrossFit per se, it could be cross training, but it definitely better not be isolation movements. However, if you aren't doing anything and isolation movements is the only thing you're gonna go do, it's sure better than not doing anything. Nutrition starts in the kitchen, and it goes back to, if you can't measure it, you're not gonna be able to manage it. That's why I like doing CrossFit as well, is because I have workout times associated with specific workouts. I can repeat certain workouts that I did a year ago and test my fitness to see if I'm getting more fit or less fit. Lastly, I know this video is a little bit longer, but we're gonna answer the question as far as calls go and what is the right way to bugle at elk. I have killed probably 2 bulls a year I'm going on like a 6 or 7 year run. In a couple of those years, I might have killed 3 or 4 bulls. I hunt obviously out of state, several states. So I've had a lot of success lately, but there was a strong learning curve there. I killed my first elk in 2001, and the next elk I killed, I think, was 2004. So there was a 3-year dry spell, and that's where I switched from rifle to archery. And in those 3 years, such a severe learning curve. And I want to thank all the people that mentored me and took me out and showed me the ropes because the first year on my own, I didn't know what I was doing. I thought you just watched a Primos video and did what they did. Those guys pay to hunt on private land. These are ranches. They're not high fence, but these elk don't leave these ranches for the most part. They have sanctuaries. They don't have hunting pressure. It's a very expensive price tag to hunt these type ranches in Montana and Colorado. The Hill Ranch, the Broken Arrow Ranch, several ranches in the big belts in Montana and the little belts in Montana, and I've seen these places and I've drooled at how amazing it is to see 3 or 4 6-point bulls with 50 cows and you can't step on that property. It's a reality that most of us won't ever experience, and that's okay with me. I'd rather hunt general season over the counter and be ecstatic on the 290 bull. So that's just me personally, but what I'm trying to say is there's a steep learning curve with elk hunting, especially with archery. So just know that going into it. It may take you, it may be a 2 to 7 year process till you kill your first elk. You have to be willing to eat a tag, to learn, and not look at it as failure, but to look at it as that you have now eliminated several things that you shouldn't do, and you're not going to repeat those mistakes. I always tell my athletes, it's not a mistake unless you do it twice. And so calling to elk doesn't have to be that complicated. You can study, there's some great resources out there. People have done videos and DVDs on how to, and I would recommend those resources. One that I learned was Elk Nut. He's out of Idaho. He's got several DVDs explaining to you what sounds mean what, and what I don't have very many calls that I do. I would say master a diaphragm read. A hoochie mama, push the button, is good and will work, but I think when I'm elk hunting, I always have a diaphragm in my mouth for several reasons that we don't have time to go over, but learn a diaphragm now. It's the winter, it's the off season. Now is your time to keep your diaphragms in your truck. Order from several different manufacturers. Don't just order from one. What I mean by that is get a Bugling Bulls one, get a Carlton, get a Abe & Sons, get a Hunter Specialties, whatever. Get as many as you can because they all come in different sizes. Everybody's mouth is different, and figure out which one that you can make sound the best. I like the single reeds, the single layer of diaphragm. The double reeds are a little bit more challenging. I would use those more in a bugle enriched environment, but I like the single reed for making cow calls and calf calls. Those are definitely my go-to, especially the calf call. That's definitely something that I don't think very many calls out there that are not diaphragm can do a good job of. So learning how to make cow calls, calf calls, and those, once you can get those, you throw a bugle tube in your mouth, I think you'll be able to start creating locator bugles, and those are just those single note, fade in, fade out, communicative type of, hello, I'm here, is anyone out there type thing, and that's how you can locate elk. Rarely do I call in elk. I generally kill most of my elk sneaking in. I try to kill herd bulls that way. When I do call a lot, I usually kill satellite bulls, and I'm okay with that. But if you're out for bigger bulls, I don't think calling's going to be your best bet. It depends on where you're hunting, how much hunting pressure and things like that as well. But to answer your question, what calls the right way to bugle out bulls? There's really no wrong or bad elk sound out there. I've heard some crazy sounds from real elk, but I do think learn how to do a locator bugle, learn how to do a regular old cow chirp, a little mew, a little just social mew, and then learn how to do a calf call of where is everybody, or a little bit more excited, and then you can dive deeper into the sounds of a herd gathering bugle, a herd gathering cow call, an alarm bark. There's so many nuances, and I would say I could call in most of my elk with a bugle, but you definitely have to be able to do a calf call and a cow call, and you have to be able to use a diaphragm. In fact, most of the elk I have killed have heard a cow call before I shot them, meaning they're walking through my shooting lane and I want to shoot them, and I stop them with a real quick mew, and they stop, and then I execute the shot. And so having a diaphragm. Brian, good luck. Thanks for the questions. I have several more of these videos that are coming your way. This is just the first one. I hope you got a nugget or two to focus on, especially on that fitness stuff. That's kind of my jam. Keep them coming, guys. elkshape@gmail.com. Brian, I'll send you some swag. And hope everyone has a great rest of their day, and thanks for taking the time to watch. Share this with your friends. I'm looking to build up that subscription base on YouTube so I can become a professional YouTuber and quit my day job. I'm just joking. Thanks for watching.